I am honored and humbled to be able to stand and speak in this place, not just for the centennial of a remarkable moment in American history, but you know, as you get older, you rewrite history in your mind. I'll be able to tell my grandchildren that the president opened for me today. So that was an amazing day. I want you, if you have your Bibles, to join me in Luke's Gospel, chapter 10. Luke chapter 10, and we extend greetings to all of those of you who are viewing from around the world. Luke chapter 10. It's a familiar passage of Scripture, verse 30 through 35. Luke 10, verse 30 through 35. And Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, they beat him, they left him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. I want to preach, Pastor, for a little while on the 100th anniversary of Black Wall Street. I want to preach using as a subject, stop celebrating the Good Samaritan. Stop celebrating the Good Samaritan. Being a product of public schools my entire life, until recently, I wasn't familiar with Montessori education philosophy, as coined by its founder, Dr. Maria Montessori, who, while being both a physician and an educator, happened to be a single mother. She became an outspoken advocate for the empowerment of children in the late 1800s. Her methodology was so impactful that school curriculum still utilize it to this day with stellar results. The cornerstone of the philosophy of Montessori schools should be a pronouncement for Black people. Here is the philosophy of Montessori education. Hear this. Every unnecessary help is a stumbling block to developing independence. Every unnecessary help is a stumbling block to developing independence. Every creature in creation understands this principle except modern day African Americans. If you crack open a cocoon thinking you are helping a butterfly, you are actually handicapping it because they need to open it for themselves so that the blood will flow into their wings. If you open the cocoon, the butterfly will never be able to fly because they were never able to develop the strength themselves. Tomorrow, if you go home and you build a nest for birds in your backyard, they will systematically take the twigs apart and go build their own in another tree. because they understand they have to do for themselves. You have to make up in your mind and even pass on to our children. You don't want the help if it will impede the development. A conservative brother by the name of Jason Riley, who is a contributor to the Wall Street Journal, wrote a compelling tome entitled, hear this, "Please Stop Helping Us. How Liberals Make It Harder for Blacks to Succeed." In it, he argues how well-intended welfare programs are wounding our ability to be whole. It's his contention that after the assassination of Dr. King now 50 years ago, a lot was done out of false symbolism for the advancement of all that is in fact liberal, even while it gave us psychological and fiscal regression. Limiting school choice under the pretense that best options for their children's education. Affirmative action in higher education was peddled to enlarge the parameters of acceptance in state institutions while defunding HBCUs. Extending single mothers' welfare to work programs, but forgetting to mention it was only for entry-level positions. Most recently, President Trump suggested giving the death penalty to drug dealers. I was all for it if he was talking about the pharmaceutical companies that are making Americans addicted to painkillers. You can make up in your mind that if it's going to hurt me, hinder me, or handicap me, please don't pretend like it's helping me. I recall, Pastor, the television commercial advertising car insurance where a family broke down in the desert. The nuisance mother is on the payphone, told her son Jerry there were 15 people ahead of them on the line waiting. To which he responded, "Mom, you are not helping." You don't need people to always tell you how bad and bleak it is. If they are not coming with solutions or roadmap or blueprint of how it is that you're going to help. It is an exercise of futility for us to come 100 years later and just bemoan about losing restaurants, department stores, plumbing agencies, and schools, and 100 years later still not have a blueprint as to how it is that we can rebuild and how it is that we move forward. I'm grateful that the president has come, but outside of holding up traffic, outside of bringing in the press, if he did not bring a check that symbolizes reparations for this community and the survivors, he might as well hold up the sit outside with cut-off panties on and speak to Kamala Harris, but if it doesn't bring reparations, it is not helping. My favorite movie of all times is Black Panther. And it brought me pain when it is that the agent from America joined forces with the warriors from Wakanda. His presence seemed to have no point to a people who were self-reliant. The young king went to go reclaim their vibranium or their power from the people who were trying to co-opt it. And in typical fashion, the citizens from the West were involved in it. Noticeably, there were no guns until the whites showed up. Heavy artillery is exchanged, and CIA agent Evans ends up getting wounded. As a direct breach of the code of Wakanda, they brought him back to the land and helped him get restored because of a false sense of obligation. As a people, we've always had the habit of helping those who hurt us. We would nurse their babies, but they wouldn't let us drink from their water fountains. We would build the White House, even though when they were offended when we were elected to serve them. We helped raise their children, even while it is they put ours in the back of the bus. They understood who it is that we were and made a colossal mistake of not editing the preamble of the Constitution. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, all women are created equal and have the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We help build the economic infrastructure and yet feel uncomfortable asking for reparations. It is no less offensive to see Negroes tap dancing without tap dance shoes. We help design and build Washington, D.C., even though we don't own any property. I'm sick of always having to help, but never ask, do we need any help? The movie Jerry Maguire, Tom Cruise with Cuba Gooding, the agent said to the unfocused football player, help me help you. That's what it is that the citizens of Greenwood, the citizens of Tulsa and Black America have been asking aloud, help us help ourselves. We're not asking for you to do us a favor. We're not asking for you to do anything extraordinary. You already know how to pay reparations. You do it for Israel. When you give Israel under 17 times the amount you give to the entire continent of Africa, you know how to give reparations. You know how to give for each other. When you would give Papa John's and Ruth Chris, that to set aside for economic advancement, but black people can't get anything in order to get higher education, in order to build a home, in order to start a business. You know how to do it for self. And in Luke chapter 10, Jesus is doing private coaching with 12 disciples when a lawyer who wasn't invited, hadn't been enrolled, but operates out of white privilege, interrupts the conversation. He asks a critical conversation that America doesn't know how to answer. Who is my neighbor? And the Lord speaks in a parable and tells them about some people. Some people who live somewhere between Oklahoma and Texas. So there's a man who's walking from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell amongst Republicans, fell amongst white supremacists, fell amongst those who even after losing still had the nerve to wave the Confederate flag. Left them beaten, robbed, half dead. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know what it means for our people to have been beaten. Nina Simone calls it hanging from strange fruit from sycamore trees. To be beaten, to be 12 years old and to be killed right outside of Ohio because you're presumed to be adult. You know what it's like to be beaten just to have a hoodie on and to have Arizona iced tea in the bag of Skittles. You know what it's like to be beaten, to be a first responder, but to be killed in Louisville, Kentucky, and have your name be Breonna Taylor. You know what it's like to be beaten, to be judged by the color of your skin rather than the content of your character. Not just to be beaten, but to be robbed of your self-esteem, to be made to feel embarrassed because, in the words of Clark McKay, we wear the mask. In the words of Langston Hughes, I too sing America. They ask me to eat the kitchen when company comes, but I just laugh and eat well and grow strong, for tomorrow you'll see how beautiful I am because I too am America. You know what it's like to be beaten and to be robbed, and you were made to feel ashamed of your melanin, but now they'll risk skin cancer trying to look like you. You know what it's like to be robbed of your self-esteem, made to be ashamed of your lips, but now they're getting injections to get lips like yours. You know what it's like to made to walk upright, to hide made your buttocks, but now they'll give you injections to make their behind look like yours. You know what it's like to be robbed, to make you feel like you can't do chemistry and algebra and math when it was our people who founded all of it in Timbuktu. You know what it's like to be robbed and to be left half dead. He's beaten, he's robbed, he's left half dead. And who passes him by is the law. The law passes him by. The law passes them by and says that if you are found with an ounce of marijuana, you have a mandatory minimum sentence. But if you have the same amount of cocaine, you get parole. The law passes them by. Tells them that in fact that there is an inequitable justice system that is not just for us, where we see black robes but see white justice. The law passes them by, when they're willing to spend more money for the prison pipeline than they are for to develop our public schools in Tulsa, when the only technology is metal detectors, but our students don't have access to computers. The law passes them by. When you can get a scholarship if you throw a football or dribble a basketball, but if you want to do engineering or computer programming, then your mama got to take out a second loan on the house. You know what it's like when the law passes you by. Not only does the law pass them by, but the church passes them by. Church passes them by because they don't know what to do with a generation that got tattoos. The church passes them by because they got piercings in their tongues and in their ears and in their noses. The church passes them by. Y'all not gonna say anything when it is that we still think that your sanctification is limited to the length of your skirt and whether or not you got on open-toe shoes or red lipstick. The church is passing them by when they don't mind black women keeping the church open but don't want black women to preach from behind the pulpit. It is the church that passes them by. And out of this whimsical, almost Walt Disney, Mother Grimm fairy tale, here comes the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan comes along, rescues him, takes him to a hotel, leaves money at the front desk, and everybody shouts, thank God for the Good Samaritan. I want to underscore a couple of things, Pastor, that may get me in trouble, but you brought me a round-trip ticket. The first thing I want to do is I want to hold liable your vacation Bible school teacher. I want to send a subpoena to your Sunday school teacher.
All right.
And I want to do a class action lawsuit against your former pastor. Because if you read Luke chapter 10, nowhere in sacred text does Jesus ever call the Samaritan good. It is out of our colonized faith. It is out of our brainwashed beliefs that we believe that the Samaritan is good. I rise tonight to levy my objection because I don't believe that the Samaritan is good. And I really believe, Brother Pastor, that the Samaritan is from Oklahoma. If you give me just 4 minutes to lay out my point, my argument, my contention, I'll bid you adieu. The first evidence that I have that the Samaritan is not good, and perhaps that the Samaritan is from Oklahoma, is I want you to see what he does when he shows up. He sees a black man from Greenwood who is beaten, who is robbed, who is left half dead. And Pastor, here's what's crazy. He never takes them to the hospital. He takes them to a hotel. Because it is the mind of the oppressor to make the oppressed comfortable and not healed. What he needed was not an innkeeper, he needed a physician. And too many of you Negroes have gotten comfortable with Gucci belts and red bottom shoes, playing golf, driving an Audi, and having a Lexus. But it was never the intention of our ancestors for us to be comfortable. It was for us to be whole and for us to be healed. Takes him to the Marriott. Takes him to the Hyatt, takes him to the Four Seasons. When what he really needs is a hospital, not a hotel. Second evidence that I have that the Samaritan is probably from Oklahoma. My problem is that, note this, he never filed a report to catch who did it. He wanted to isolate the one survivor. Let the one survivor testify. But do nothing to stop the system that made the assault possible. If all we do is roll up our ancestors and let them testify, but not do anything to make their grandchildren's life any more comfortable, we are just as guilty as the robber and the thief and the terrorist and the lobbyist that beat them up in the first place. Never filed a report. Nobody ever raised the question, will the roads be made safe so that this never happens again? God help me. So something is wrong if all we do, hear this, here is the insanity of our brokenness, is that we are celebrating a tragedy. The evidence that we are not whole is that we have turned this into a jamboree when it is supposed to be a memorial of the blood that is dripping off the hands of America. Something is wrong when we checked in the hotel but never got to the hospital. The Bible says he put him in the hotel, put him in the bed, and maybe you forgot his pre-existing conditions. He's half dead. He's robbed. He don't have forms of ID to go home. He don't have a credit card because his credit is shot. He put him in the bed, hear this, and offers no medication. He can potentially bleed out. And then says to the front desk if he needs anything. Maybe you forgot I'm in Luke chapter 10, and so this is before Alexander Graham Bell. There are no phones. So he's in the room, squirming and bleeding to death. But there is no phone for him to call the front desk to ask for assistance. The one thing we found out 100 years ago is that when the people in this community were under siege, under fire, and under bombs, they went to the church. They didn't call 911, but they didn't call them up. Call them up and tell them what to want. They knew just a little talk with Jesus will make everything all right. I know y'all don't pray anymore, but is there anybody that knows late in the midnight hour, God's gonna turn it around. It's gonna work. no medication. No medication is offered to you. He takes out his credit card. This is what you've been celebrating, runaway slaves. He takes out his credit card and leaves it at the front desk. But never gives money to the victim. He only gives money to the establishment. God help me, but never gives it to the ones who were beaten, who were wounded, who were burnt out, who lost everything. I came to tell y'all, don't y'all take no little check that don't mean nothing to the rebuilding of your community, your family, and to the industry that are supposed to support it. Stop throwing money at us. We ain't no street dancers. We are innovators. We are establishmentarians. We are business leaders. You can't pay us to go away. Throw money at us, but never gives a recovery plan. I just wonder whether you ever noted how is this man great when I have no evidence of him coming back? Jim Collins, in his epic business book, From Good to Great, said that the enemy of greatness is goodness. That's right. Is that people get so good at something they forget that being great is available. I want to tell you, black people from Tulsa, please don't get so comfortable with what's taking place this week. All of this is good, but y'all ain't gonna be great till you rebuild all of this and understand God has called us to do something more powerful and more impactful than what He is doing. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that Jesus never left us. All the more I'm grateful that He's coming back. My time is almost up. I'm appreciative that Pastor, you would let me come and be a part. And I wasn't sure what I was going to say, what I was going to preach, whether this was an address, whether this was a sermon. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. All the more, I didn't know who I was going to be talking to. I didn't know whether it was going to be tourists or bystanders or it was just going to be the Vernon family, the community at large. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. I remembered where I came from to help me get to where I was supposed to go. I stand before you on this somber Tuesday night, remembering and reflecting that I graduated from Duke University Divinity School. Now, I'll tell you, it's not really going to make you shout, not going to make you celebrate. But I went to Duke University 47 years after my grandfather was the head cook at Duke.
All right.
Now, it doesn't mean nothing to you, but when he was at Duke, all black men could do was shuck peas and mow the lawn and pour lemonade. And he had no idea he was going to have a grandson come behind him who wasn't there because of affirmative action. But I went there because somebody prayed for me. Somebody had me on their mind. Somebody took the time, and I'm so glad that they prayed. While I was at Duke University, I was elected the president of the Black Student Union, and I couldn't believe, this is back in 1995, 96, I couldn't believe that they hadn't had a Martin Luther King program. Had a Martin Luther King program in the dirty South, in Durham, North Carolina. Didn't have a Martin Luther King program, and I was grateful that we were able to have one. When we had one, I brought in one of Dr. King's lieutenants to be our first speaker. And I was so embarrassed. It was a dark day. Chapel is packed in jail. Press is there. It's our first time having a Martin Luther King program. This is 1996. We had made progress. Had made strides. And for 40 minutes, he given the State of the Dream address. And we at Duke University, I don't know if I told you that. We at Duke University. And for 40 minutes, he addressing black students as Negroes. It's 1996. Lord. Program are over, and the dean said, we got to take Reverend so-and-so back to the airport. Who want to take him? I said, please! Please, let me take him back to the airport. I said, Jamal, you want to take him? I said, yeah, I got to take him. I said, all right, Jamal, you take him. Reverend so-and-so get in the car and put on his seatbelt. It ain't even on good. And I didn't even put the key in the ignition. I said, Ram! I got to ask you something. Are you okay? He said, yeah, I'm okay. I said, you sure? You okay? He said, yeah, I'm okay. I said, you do know it's 1996. He said, yeah, I know it's 1996. He said, you know, Ram, we don't go by Negro no more. We go by African American. If not that, we go by blacks. He said, I don't know nothing about no African American. He said, I don't know nothing about no blacks. All I know is that when we were Negroes, we treated each other right. When we were Negroes, we didn't call our women bees and hoes. When we were Negroes, we didn't have our pants sagging down our behind. When we were Negroes, we said yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. I got to leave, but I came to Tulsa trying to find out, are there any Negroes left? 100 years later, do you still love yourself? Do you still respect yourself? Do you still honor yourself? I'm not looking for the good Samaritan. I'm looking for some good Negroes who are on their own business, on their own